Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Stumptown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, Dex gets a new case being hired by this woman named Jeana's sister. I'm actually blanking on the sister's name now. I'm so sorry. But basically, she gets hired to look into Jeana's fiance named Zach, but later on we end up finding out that's not actually his real name. His real name is Scott, but we'll kind of get into that sooner. Basically, he's a tattoo artist, but he also needs a green card. But the whole situation is that if Jeana goes through this marriage, she'll be kind of kicked off, like she'll lose all her stakes in the company the family kind of left her, which will basically be like millions upon millions of dollars. So obviously her sister's just concerned, and it's like, hey, I just want you to Dex to look into this guy to find out if he's really a good guy or not before my sister goes and throws all her fortune away. Which obviously, Dex can kind of relate, because obviously as a sibling, she wants to look out, what's best for her brother, and Ansel. So because it's like, yeah, they're very sensitive people that are very they don't recognize maybe the wolves that they're letting into their house type of situation is kind of what they're kind of going with. So Dex actually goes to meet with Zach, aka Scott, and she talks about the tattoo about a black bird. He keeps asking her why. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I thought oh, she's just BSing, asking about a tattoo. But then she keeps going, he kept pushing her to be like, what about the black bird? And now you kind of, in retrospect, you're looking she did kind of go out of her way not to explain what that was all about. But Dex is actually very good at that. I think, she even talks about this later on, because she actually goes to Hoffman about the situation, because she ended up looking up Zach, or like I said, under his real name, Scott, and ended up finding out that he was engaged to someone else before named Dahlia, who ended up dying, and he was labeled as a murderer. And Hoffman talks about he's familiar with the case, that basically Scott was kind of the number one suspect. In particular, Dahlia's mom believed him to be, because it's he was getting married into this family for money, and it was oh, Dahlia didn't want to marry you, so that's what this was all about. At least that's what Dahlia's mother kind of twisted the story. It was more so her that was kind of against the marriage, that whole situation. But Dex ends up coming back later on. She's like, oh yeah, she's like, I do find it interesting that I have such a hard time pulling the trigger on a tattoo, considering I'm a Marine and everything. But then she talks about the fact that she was into intelligence gathering or interrogations and stuff like that, and she's like, yeah, I kind of get people to kind of lower their guard around me, kind of underestimate me, and then kind of catch them off guard, and they're less likely to lie in those situations. And she straight up goes, did you murder Dahlia? And then he goes, yes. And I was like, okay, so what's this going to be it's not going to be that so simple. Basically, they had an argument because she wanted a certain thing, because she was more so she was trying to appeal to her mom. But it turned into a whole stupid argument. He's like, I said some stuff about her family, and she got into a car. It was a hit and run that ended up, her dying. And so he blames himself, because he's like, if I had not said what I did, if I had stopped her from getting into that car, she'd be alive. And obviously, I thought, obviously it gets revealed, because, Dex kind of feels bad, because she's like, oh, I kind of had you pegged wrong. You're actually a really nice dude, and understanding where he's coming from, especially because Dex can relate, because for her it's she literally went through the same thing with Benny, and she ended up telling this really nice thing about Benny of oh, Benny's that type of dude who'll make you have that big laugh. He'll walk up to you, talk to you, and you have that big laugh, oh, you've known him for years or something, you're really good friends. That's the kind of infectious person Benny was, And she talks about, that's the commonality between her and Scott. They both have people they lost, and they both blame themselves for it. Scott has a tattoo of, for Dahlia, and he's suggesting her doing the same thing. And now it makes sense why the Blackbird situation, because of his last name, it's that's what it was representing. And that's why she was kind of, because she tried to make it seem like it was just some random bird she chose, because she, it's a cover story, but it's no, it had significance. She just didn't want to, I guess subconsciously, it's just the first thing that came to her mind, because I guess she herself had been thinking about getting something as a reminder of him. But for her, it's you can't really move on if you have a reminder of someone. So isn't just having a tattoo just going to be a reminder of that person being gone? But I liked what Scott has said. It's you're already carrying that quote unquote corpse around with you. So why would having a symbol of them be any different? It's just now it's more visible, whereas before you're carrying that with you on the inside. Was having it on the outside really going to be any different than any other situation? So I thought that was kind of interesting, and it's like Dex is asking, well, how did you figure out this situation? Like, how did you deal with it? How did you learn to move on, be okay? And he was like, by finding someone who could understand the pain you're going through. And he talks about the fact is that Jeana, sometime before he lost Delilah, she lost, I said Delilah, Dahlia, before losing her, Jeana had lost like her fiance. So it's like, oh. And I was also worried that maybe something was going to happen in that moment of like, oh, she's finding them together. And Dex is like, oh, no. Security purposes, it had to come, it's like, yeah, but, she's walking away. Congratulations. Obviously, the sister comes to her and it's like, yeah, she kind of figured out what happened. So she kind of got pissed at me, but here's your money. And it's like, well, yeah, because after what Jeana went through, it's like, what? And it's like, oh, Jeana, didn't she lose her husband? Like, oh, why would you think that? At first I was like, okay, so which lane is this going? Did Jeana lie to Scott, or did Scott actually lie about the whole situation? I had skipped over it, but I do like that. Obviously, I feel like it happens from different shows, like the whole code opening thing. I mean, because this show does it quite a bit. I feel like I feel like I've seen quite a few ABC shows that do the whole code opening of like, oh, this is this point and this is like literally a week earlier. It's kind of like this whole episode took place over a week, but nevertheless, so basically, Dex ends up finding out that basically the trails that were there, the tire trails match a car that Jeana once had, but all of a sudden she stopped lapsed like on a lot of payments for it and stuff like that. All of a sudden, like 3 days later, she ended up getting a new car. So it's like, all right, but there's only circumstantial evidence, nothing hard hitting enough. But the fact of the matter is, because Dex isn't a cop, she can go about getting a confession a different way where cops wouldn't be able to kind of have that leeway. So Dex ends up put in a dress and everything. It's like, wait, she's like, yeah, because like she's had the dress because she's going to other weddings. And it's like, wait, you have a married friend? And she's like, I did. I was like, what's that about? That was just like a little side note of like, because once again, it's an aspect that I've brought up before. Dex, we've never actually met her friends outside of Gray and Cheryl Hines' character from a couple of episodes ago. I mean, that was a case, but she kind of basically got a friend out of that situation. We don't actually meet many friends of Dex's at all. Like, we only get to see like her inner circle like that. So, but she did say like once, so it's like whatever that situation was, that friendship kind of went away. Not unless that's kind of implying, not unless that's supposed to be like a wink and nod to the fact is that she went to Benny's wedding. I wouldn't think she would. Like, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it has to be something else. So maybe that's a story for another time. Maybe that's something they'll go into. Maybe they won't. But Dex has to kind of, get the confession from Jeana, and when she gets in there and she's trying to force Jeana to kind of confess, at that moment I was like, wait, are we going to get the twist where it's actually not Jeana, it was actually her sister? Because she's going to be like, what are you talking about? And then actually her sister is the one responsible for all of this, especially when it's like these baseless accusations. But it was like, no, her just being a protective sister, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And even at one part when Jeana's confessing, she's like, just stop, because basically Jeana was drinking at the time and now she's like a year sober. But now in retrospect, it all makes sense. For one, why she was so willing to marry Scott, or Zach, and, was willing to kind of throw away her money and stuff like that, because she had lived such a lifestyle that I guess she felt so guilty about it. She's like, I don't deserve this money. Like, because I guess it is a situation, because she ended up meeting him, but it's the whole thing of like, well, because they don't really go over it in the episode, but it makes you wonder, like, how far, like, did she kind of, because she's like, I didn't mean to fall in love with you. Was it a thing of kind of like, since we're ABCing it, and this is obviously under the Disney umbrella, kind of, I'll kind of make a comparison. Is it kind of like a Jessica Jones and Luke Cage situation, or Jessica would check on Luke because of the whole Reva situation? Is it kind of in that case, but then she ended up meeting him and kind of falling for him, kind of very reflective of the Jessica and Luke Cage situation in the Netflix shows. But I was wondering if it was something similar to that. But maybe not. But like I said, she said she didn't mean to fall in love with him. But now it's like, why she made up that excuse, because, you know, I guess she wanted to give her, and, you know, maybe because she wanted to pretend like, oh, there's, she came up with a story, she kind of stuck with it about, like, what she's going through, because, I mean, she was living with the tragedy of, like, I killed this woman, I didn't know what to do, and I ran. So, I guess, like, to kind of alleviate her guilt and at least take that guilt and that pain, because she said, like, because of it, she couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, it hollowed her out until she met, you know, Zach. And, you know, so it is a complicated thing, once again, like the Jessica and Luke thing of, like, being with someone after you accidentally killed their significant other. That's a rough situation, you know. And she's asking him for forgiveness, and Zach's like, I can't, you know. And that's, for that to kind of be thrown in your face so suddenly, it makes you go, like, you've known this entire time and you've been hid, like, I'm sure it wouldn't be the easiest thing to take, like, if she had come to him earlier and be like, yeah, I'm sorry I did this thing, like, before they became a couple or whatever. If it was something like that, I'm sure it'd still be hard to forgive. But it's like, we were in a relationship, we were going to get married, you killed my fiance, like, you know, and he blamed himself for it, and, you know, that's been eating him up, and, you know, so, and obviously you can tell Dex is kind of like, well, because she knows that what kind of pain this is causing Scott, but at the very least, it can alleviate some of that guilt he feels about, you know, the whole Dahlia situation. So I'm curious to see, is there going to be any repercussions? Like, is Jeana's family, in particular her sister, going to come after Dex? Because it's kind of like, you kind of brought her into this situation, but it's like, I don't know. That could come back to bite Dex. I don't know if it will or not, but, you know, ultimately we'll have to, you know, wait and see on that front. But, what we did see at the end, though, was I thought this interesting moment between them. Like, she ends up getting a tattoo, and I love her being like, yeah, I thought it was supposed to hurt. And he was almost like, really? And she's like, no, I'm kidding. I'm in excruciating pain. And she ends up talking about the fact is that if her and Scott had met under different circumstances, you know, because what Scott had said earlier about meeting someone who literally understands your pain, so they understand each other's pain, but does that, you know, and it's like, you know, so the way they kind of leave it off, I kind of get the feeling like they will cross paths again, so maybe something will come about that, maybe not. We'll ultimately have to wait and see on that front. But another angle to this episode is the whole situation with, Hoffman and his dad Lionel. Interesting enough, once again, I'm seeing that actor all over the damn place, especially comic book related stuff. I saw him in season 1 of Lock and Key. He was in Birds of Prey, and now he's in this. So I'm like, dude, you're all over this comic book property stuff. I think it's so interesting. It's just funny how that stuff works out like that. But essentially, Lionel representing Charles, like, obviously, you know, it seems like him and Hoffman have a very interesting, you know, relationship. It seems like he doesn't always side with the fact is of what the cases his dad takes, but I think it's more so in this particular case, you ended up picking a case that was opposite of me. You shouldn't have taken this case, because Hoffman takes it as a personal thing, because it's like, you could have literally picked any case, but you picked the case opposite of me. And the way he kind of, you know, doing the lawyer thing that, like, you know, try to sway the case in your favor. He can't do it in the courtroom, so he tries to do it through the eyes of the media, you know, public opinion. And obviously, you know, questioning the investigation and the cops, it was more so a personal attack on him. That's how Hoffman felt about it. And obviously his mom made it clear that, like, yo, don't get this whole situation twisted. Don't let it interfere with brunch, because they are they are both in the, you know, law enforcement angle. They're just two sides of the same coin, essentially. I mean, her argument, they're literally two sides of, you know, probably on the same side of the same coin, you know. But regardless of all of that, you know, it turns into a situation of Hoffman trying to get back at his dad. So there was some slanderous stuff that he kind of uses to kind of tarnish his dad's name a little bit. His mom didn't appreciate it, because it's like, yeah, those are tactics your dad would use. So to get back at your dad, you kind of act more like him. And for him, it's like, yeah, but your dad made a personal attack against me. And it's like, his mom is trying to make him understand that, yeah, your dad is very prideful in what he does. The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, your dad loves you, and all he wants is your respect, you know. And she referenced his son, so I'm like, oh, Hoffman has a brother? Had they referenced that before? What's that whole situation about? I don't know if that's ever come up before, but like I rewound it because she says sons as in plural, so it's like, not unless she was saying in a possessive sense of like oh, this belongs, like, sons as in apostrophe s, but it sounded like sons as in plural. So I was like, maybe they brought that up before and I didn't catch that, but I thought that was interesting, because Lionel wants Hoffman to come work for him, but I think for Hoffman, like for him, it's like I think maybe it's a thing of, Hoffman's kind of just as prideful in the sense that he wants to kind of forge his own path. And it's just kind of like almost like you don't understand, Dad. Like, why would I work with you? Like, I enjoy my job. Yeah, I could get paid more, but it's like I'd be under you. And I want to kind of do my own thing. I want to forge my own path and everything. Because I think also working under his dad, he'd be doing similar things that his dad does. Because obviously he regrets what he did. Because obviously it was against his dad. But also for him, it's like skirting that line and stuff like that. Because even his mom was like, oh, you're telling me some of the cops you work with don't kind of push certain agendas and kind of push little gray areas to kind of get cases to stick. So it's not just like on your dad. People you work with kind of do the same thing, don't they? So, but at the end of the day, Hoffman ends up apologizing to his dad. His dad's like, no, I understand that it was you. I figured as much. And he was like, actually, I'm super proud of you to do what you did. Because for him, it's like, the fact of the matter is, I'm meant to do I'm required to do 50 hours of pro bono work a year. But he does it 50 hours a month because for him, it's like he takes on cases like the Charles so that he can get paid a lot of money to be able to do what he wants to do. So it's like work the cases that you might not want to work, kind of similar to a bull situation, as like work the cases you don't necessarily want to work or you may not 100% align with because you know that money allowed you to work the cases that you really want to. And even like that, him getting back at Hoffman saying like, but also like your approach isn't like that perfect either because you're not allowing people to have a second chance. It's like they're guilty, it's black and white. It's like, no, there's shades of gray. Like, are you not going to be willing to give this kid a second chance? But it's the whole argument. It could be like, well, if you're giving him because it depends on how many chances he has. Is this going to be a second chance? Sure, maybe. But then if he screws up in the future, then you take him. That's how I kind of look at it. But Hoffman and his dad were able to kind of bury the hatchet. So I thought that was kind of a neat element to it too, because him and Dex had talked about it, because Dex is like, yeah, I kind of saw about the situation with your dad because of the whole TV situation, but she's like, yeah, as someone who has, the crappiest parents and kind of deals with it with drinking, she could totally understand. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing, kind of another, when you actually look at it in the grand scheme of things, they're kind of creating parallels between Dex and a lot of people. Obviously she has her connections to Gray, kind of a past you'd rather forget. Hoffman's complicated relationship with his dad. Obviously, she has our complicated relationship with her parents. And obviously, more recently, with this whole Scott situation, parallels in the sense of like, oh, we both lost our fiancés, the people we care about. Especially because it's that thing of like, Dex was like, I made a choice that led to that. We still don't 100% know what it is, but remember, she talked about it in a couple episodes. There's something that she still hasn't told Sue Lin, because she knows that if Sue Lin ever found this thing out, it would probably make her go back to hating Dex, even though she's in the spot where she's kind of forgiven Dex. We've never circled back to finding out what that is exactly. So there's that. Then another side of this whole situation is Tookie working at the Bad Alibi, and I thought it was kind of an interesting element of like, oh, he's there with the truck and everything, and Tookie's just like, oh, this could be a great thing. Gray's reluctant about it, but because he sees the look on Ansel's face and he doesn't want to break Ansel's heart, he's like, all right, fine, this whole thing can work. Tookie's doing his thing. Obviously, Gray's not too fond of it because it's like, oh, all this great food, sure, but we're not selling drinks. I'm mainly selling water. Then there's the whole approach of like, oh, making drinks and stuff like that using lime, like fresh ingredients. But Gray is like, well, we use fresh ingredients, they go to waste, so you kind of cut lines. And then like, oh, Tookie was suggesting something, but you have Gray being like, that's illegal. He's like, yeah, but I'm sure you're fine with that. Stripes, kind of referencing his time in prison. It's like, all right. But what I thought was interesting too is like, obviously Gray starts trying to avoid Tookie, and he has this moment with Dex where Dex is like, I'm surprised you won't even work here, Tookie. I'm surprised you don't want to just walk away, because you the whole like, oh, you wanted to do the whole truck thing because you got to be yourself. But for him, it's like, I'm getting older, so he basically feels like he needs to find something a little more reliable, something more, expansive, that he can, work at, because for him, he, references his wife, which we've never, seen her. But he's like, I love her, because Dex is like, oh, that sounds like something she would say, because it's like, you don't have to change yourself to kind of conform for someone else to like you. But for him, Tookie, it's like, but he loves his wife, and he thinks that, this is probably like the best way of kind of a brighter future for himself. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting, conversation. But Tookie goes to see, Gray, and Gray's playing video games. And I love that he's like, Gray looks over, and Tookie's like, what are you looking at? And he's like, were you looking at the gun? He's like, no, I wasn't looking at the gun. Were you going to shoot me? He's like, I'm not going to shoot you. It's my grandfather's gun. I thought he was going to insinuate it's because like, oh, the Bad Alibi was like a family thing. But I'm like, all right, No, because this is 100% something he just bought. But for him, it's like that's why he doesn't like Tookie kind of stepping in and kind of stepping into his territory, because it's like, oh, the bad alibi is mine. It's mine to embrace. It's my baby. So, you know, he doesn't like anyone coming here challenging that and taking over that. He's like, I don't want to be partners. You should just kind of walk away. And Tookie's like, fine, if I'm not wanted, I'll leave. Obviously, Ansel's kind of upset about it because it's like, oh, look at all this. And it's like, oh, actually, we've actually been making a lot of good profits because of Tookie's approach to this whole situation has worked out. And I liked what Gray ended up talking about later on. He ends up admitting, like, honestly, he's always had one foot in and out of the door, because he's like, oh, I keep this conversation going about how the bad alibi is so important to me. But for him, he admits, like, to be fair, anytime Hoffman asked me to come help him and stuff like that, I dropped everything to do it. So showing that the bad alibi wasn't really his top priority, you know, kind of showing, like, you know, I guess for him, he's always, because of his life and everything, he's always looking for an out. Like if I have to kind of go, I have to go. So, and which is kind of very interesting to have that whole conversation, considering the whole Max conversation last episode, you know, make you kind of wonder about that. But regardless of all that, you know, I just thought that was, you know, an interesting aspect of it. But eventually, you know, Gray does go and apologize to Tookie, you know, because even Gray's like, yeah, I was kind of being a stubborn ass about the fact of the matter is, you know, it's just like, you know, he recognizes that Tookie does good work and he kind of wants to kind of pick that back up. So he goes to visit Tookie, and, you know, Tookie's like, oh, I'm not going to just come crawling back. He's like, right, you shouldn't, and so on and so forth. And then Tookie's just like, all right. And they make up and everything. And then Tookie kind of pulls him in and he's like, what's going on? And he kisses him, and Gray's just sitting there and Tookie's just sitting there too. He's like, why do you have to be so weird? Because he had brought that up to Dex, like, but he's so weird. And Tookie's like, what are you talking about? He's like, that wasn't even a situation necessary of a kiss. And he just gets up and walks away. And Tookie's just kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. So, and obviously, you know, appointing Ansel to assistant manager, because obviously it's like Ansel knows more so about what's best for bad alibi than he does, showing that, you know, once again showing how much Ansel's growing, because obviously he's doing a little test driving himself as you know, Dex is like, you know, letting him drive. And I kind of agree with Tookie. It is kind of unfair for you to gauge Ansel's driving when you're considering the fact is your car is a complicated beauty that it is. But yeah, I mean, obviously Ansel's getting more responsibility because obviously he wants to be more of an adult to kind of spread his own wings. So I'm curious to see what that ends up being in the long run, because obviously the conversation comes up about his parents, like he brought that up to Tookie. So I'm like, is there some parallel to that? Like, is this going to be something where he's like, I hope it doesn't turn into a situation of he feels like if he can become more of an adult, maybe his parents will come back. I hope it's not something heartbreaking like that. Like psychologically, he's trying to be independent because it's like, if I can take care of myself, maybe they'll come back. Maybe they left because of me, you know? Like I say, because just all this stuff happening, you know, obviously he wants to be very independent and stuff like that on his own, but I wonder, is there kind of a deeper meaning to it? Maybe, maybe not. But regardless of all that, you know, is a celebration at the end of kind of all four of them. So, you know, I'm curious to see ultimately where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.